Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode from the MVP Connect series. My name is Rashmita, and I am the event planner for Microsoft Reactor India. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. But before we begin, please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We are all here to learn together, so please be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat section will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. So please feel free to drop all your questions in the chat section. I would now like to welcome Dr. Abhilasha, our speaker for today's session. Dr. Abhilasha is a Microsoft certified trainer working as business unit head, cloud security and BI at the Cloud Technologies. But for now, I will hand over to Dr. Abhilasha to begin the session. Let me bring her into the stream.
Thank you,
Hey,
Rashmita. Hi.
good good evening. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing good, Rashmita. Excited for today's session.
Awesome. So here is your slide, and there you go. I'll be at the backstage.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmita. Hi, everyone. And I hope you all are doing well. Thank you all for joining this session. So, today's session is Securing Unseen. That is, we will be talking about intra ID, conditional access, and zero trust model. So the session which I have planned for today is the entire agenda will be working towards how we can manage the secure access to the remote employees using conditional access policies and how conditional access is helping us in zero trust model. So before jump into the session, uh, let me take you to a little bit about me. As Rashmita mentioned that I'm working with CloudTech as a BU head for cloud security and business intelligence. I'm also Microsoft certified trainer from year 2021 and completed couple of Microsoft certifications. Yes, definitely to understand that what all Microsoft is having for securing our resources, securing users, securing access, securing infra, network, all those things. And also understanding of the AWS cloud as well, and I'm also a member of other Azure communities where I'm sharing my knowledge and I'm gaining the knowledge from the other community members. I'm also running my own user group in the Badodara where I'm working from, Badodara, Gujarat. And we are also doing monthly events where the students, professionals are coming and they are learning together. And also, I'm a member of other communities like Women in Tech India, Women in Big Data to help women to come in the tech field and specifically in the security field. And if you see this QR code on the slide, this QR code is for my LinkedIn profile. So we have a time for today's session, but let's say during the completion of the topic, if I'll not be having much time to take all the questions, so you can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'll be definitely happy to help you in your learning journey and the queries you have related to this topic. So let's start the topic today. And I hope that you all really going to enjoy this session because I have clubbed the things like the theory and the case studies and the some demos to give you a brief about this topic. So the challenges which we see, we all know that there are a lot of challenges which are happening in the remote area because since COVID-19, we see that most of the companies are now migrating from on-prem to cloud, and they are giving easiness to their employees to work from anywhere, to use any device for accessing the resources. Now, this remote work during this COVID 19 pandemic is increased to 138%. And this is according to the March 22 report by the Alliance Virtual Offices. And these offices are providing the services to the remote workforce. So we can see that the abrupt increase in the number of cases which are happening. So it is happening because of the expanded attack surface, which is due to the added devices and connections, and many are not optimized for the security. So that is a major challenge because when we say attack surface extension, it means the access which we have given, the devices which we are using, the networks which we are using are not secure enough, and these are increasing the attack surface for the attacker. The second reason which I have taken on my slide is the massive increase in targets and target locations due to the company data in employees' homes. So I hope that you all will be agree on this point that when users and employees are using the applications, data, resource from their own locations, the location will also be a challenge where we need to see that is it compliance that we are allowing the access from this particular location. That is also a reason. And also we have reduced or diverted cybersecurity budget and resources due to negative impacts on the business. That is also one of the reason that this cybersecurity risk is dramatically increasing. And also we have climate of fear, uncertainty, and we have threatened health issues. So we are not able to concentrate on the things. So we need to have a solution which will help us in managing the things in a very, very simpler manner so that we will be able to make sure that the things we have or the access we are giving is in a safer side. We are managing our authentication and authorization up to the level through which we will be able to manage or secure access to our resources. So for that only, we will be discussing about the pointers where we will be talking about zero trust. We are securing the assets where they are with zero trust. So if you see my slide, in this slide, if you see, we have two approaches. The one approach is talking about the traditional approach or the classic approach, where you're restricting everything to a secure network. Let me take the pen and highlighter just to point out that where we are. So I'm talking about this classic approach. This is known as a traditional approach of access control for IT, where we are restricting all the resources to a corporate owned network connection. And also we are becoming very, very restrictive to meet the need of a dynamic enterprise. Now, what is happening in that case is once the attacker is able to break this lock, attacker will be able to access everything what is given inside this infra. And it is very easy for access all because now after breaking this lock, it's very easy to reach out to the resources which are given over here. But if we talk about the zero trust approach, we are protecting the assets anywhere with the central policy. And what we are doing is we are having the zero trust policy or the approach where we are managing the security concern for each and every resource. Whatever signal is coming, we are not accepting that signal as it is. We are assuming that that signal is coming for a breach, that signal is coming for a malicious intention. So, what we are doing in that is that we are changing the way we are securing the infrastructure. We are changing the way we are securing the access of the resources. So, here, if you see, we have a lock placed at databases, we have lock placed at the file, have lock placed at the access devices. Everywhere we have a lock placed because when the attacker is trying to breach this information, they have to breach each and every signal or each and every resources, then only they will be having access to that. So zero trust principle is helping in establishing and continuously improving security assurance. Now, what we can do is the security assurance is also give coming us with the flexibility and that we can keep track with the new world. Like if we want to exclude some users from such kind of policies, if we know that those users are traveling a lot, we can remove such kind of policies from those users. We can have such kind of different controls to them, so that will give a flexibility to the user because whenever we want to provide a security, we want to have a proper balance between security and a productivity. So we don't want to harm a user's productivity. So zero trust policy is helping us in managing the protecting of the assets anywhere with a central policy. Let me take you to the next slide to give you a little bit about more about this zero trust policy. So, as I mentioned, in zero trust security, what we are doing is specifically we are doing explicitly, we are verifying every signal. That is the first point which we need to understand in a zero trust model. The second point is we have to use a least privilege access. Now, what is the meaning of least privilege access? Is The roles which we are creating or the access we are giving is based on the user's designation. The role which user is going to perform, based on that role, we are going to give access to the users, so that attack surface will be reduced and the access will be given based on the user's job role or the designated role of the user. And also the third point is we have to assume the breach, that every time the signal is coming for accessing any resource, we are assuming the breach, and that's why we are verifying explicitly every signal which is coming. So we have to always authenticate and authorized based on all the available data points. We can limit the user access with just in time, just enough access. So just in time is like, for example, I can give you example of the systems where we have virtual machines where we have ports open, and through these ports we are able to access the resources or the applications which are deployed. So if these ports are kept open and unattended, attackers can gain access to the virtual machines and then they can use those information. So we can have these ports under just in time. So we can limit the opening of the ports with the help of just in time, where we will be opening the ports whenever it is needed. Just enough access, the access which is needed to complete the designation task. So zero trust model give us the flexibility to work on such kind of scenarios where we can design our policies in such a way that we can manage the port opening like with just in time. For example, we can give the access to the user but with a limited options. So we can also work on adaptive policies. So zero trust model is basically giving us the power to reduce the attack surface. And if we talk about the core of zero trust, we are not believing everything. What we are doing is we are always assuming that there is a breach. So that's a plus point of zero trust, where in today's scenario, regardless of where the request is coming, who is the originator of the request, if you have implemented multi-factor authentication, be it admin, be it a normal user, be it an external user, the user will have to go through MFA for the authentication. So that's the kind of a power zero trust is giving. So if you see in this particular slide, I've mentioned a few technology stacks like identity, endpoints, data, applications, infrastructure, network. So these identities, we need to work on secure identity with zero trust, whether they represent people, whether they represent services or IoT devices. So all these define a zero trust control plane. So, whenever identity attempts to access a resource, we need to verify that identity with strong authentication. So, as I mentioned, if we have enable MFA, that identity needs to come with MFA authentication only. And also, we need to ensure that access is compliant and also typical for that identity. And definitely, we have to use a least privilege policies for access. So, when we talk about the endpoints, so in the endpoints, I'll just highlight the endpoints. So once an identity has been granted access to a resource, data can flow to a variety of different endpoints, from IoT devices to smartphone, bring your own devices to partner managed devices, on-prem workloads to cloud hosted servers. So this diversity creates a massive attack surface for the attackers. So, monitoring and enforcing device health and compliance is must for secure access. So, that is the point which we talk about the secure endpoints. When we talk about secure applications with zero trust, so applications and API, we all know that provides the interface by which data is consumed. Now, they may be legacy on prem applications, they may be lift and shift to cloud workloads, they may be modern SaaS applications. So, applying the controls and technologies to discover the shadow IT while ensuring the appropriate in-app permissions, where we need to have access based on real-time analysis, behaviors, controlling the user access, validating the secure configuration options. All these comes into the picture when we talk about the application security. Now, when we say secure data, applications, endpoint, identity, they all are working to accessing the data so that the day-to-day job can be managed. So security teams are protecting the data. So data should be safe when it's in the transit, when it's in the rest. So data security is important, and that is also managed with the zero trust model. Applications are also. Infrastructure is secure because whether we are in the on-prem, whether we are using a cloud-based VMs, we are using containers, microservices, all these are representing critical threat vectors. So access to versions, configurations, just-in-time access, all these harden the defense. So we need to understand the logs, we need to monitor the things, and based on that we can create a policies to make this infrastructure secure. And when we talk about the securing of the network, all the data is ultimately accessed over the network infrastructure. So networking controls can provide critical controls to enhance the visibility and also help preventing attackers from moving literally across the network. So that can also control with the help of zero trust model. So in total, if I will summarize, so zero trust model is helping us in verifying explicitly, assuming that the breach is there, and also assigning a just enough access to the identities. So this zero trust model, with this we will be moving away from a trust by default perspective to a trust by exception perspective, because we are not trusting any signal which is coming. So in addition to that, if I'll go to the next slide, this is a zero trust with conditional access. This is a very beautiful diagram given by Microsoft, which will summarize that how Microsoft Azure is leveraging adaptive access control through Azure, through Microsoft Entra ID, conditional access policies. So if you see over here in the left hand side, we have certain signals. If you see in the middle, this is mentioning verify every access attempt. And then we have apps and data. So what this diagram is talking about is that when organizations are utilizing their identity signals, part of their access control decisions. So we can control that what access we are going to allow and what access we are going to allow with the restricted access and what access we are going to block completely. So if you see in the left hand side, it is talking about user and location. So you have a high risky users, you have admins, from which location users are trying to access the information, that also we are going to keep track. So the important part is, uh, if we talk about users, there are some risk associated with the users that we can enable with the help of identity protection or risk detection, where we can have three default policies. The first default policy is where all users to register for Azure multi-factor authentication, and user require a password change with a high risk, or user requires a MFA with a medium or high sign-in risk. So we can enable these kind of policies. So conditional access is the tool which is used by Microsoft Intra ID to bring signals together. And this will help us in making the decision that the signal is coming from which user, which location, which device, which application is trying to access, and what are the risks associated with that. So this will help us in making the decisions and enforcing the organizational policies. So conditional access is, I can say, that the heart of a new identity driven control plane, where everything is managed and accessed with the help of different signals which are coming. So conditional access policies are highly configurable. I will show you the demo also, how we can include the several capabilities like requiring MFA for admins and user protections. We can work on block legacy authentication, require MFA for service management, block access by location. You can have GPS coordinates. Based on that, you can block that. You require trusted location for MFA registration that you can mention. You need to have a compliant devices for taking such decisions. So zero trust with conditional access give us the power to manage the access we are giving, the limited access we are giving, and completely we can also block the access for the user, so that we can manage and work with the help of zero trust with conditional access. So I hope that till now you got the understanding that what are the challenges, how the zero trust is helping us in managing and reducing the attacks surface, and also how conditional access is giving us the power to work on the signals, and these signals are going to help us in verifying every access attempt, and we will be approving or rejecting that access based on the conditions for the applications for the data. If you have any questions, just feel free to post it on the chat which is provided, or feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will take the questions at the end of the session. Once we will complete the demo and certain case studies, then we will move to the question and answer session if time permits, or I will be taking those questions on my LinkedIn profile itself, or from my personal account, I will try to answers in the YouTube once the session will be over. Let me take you to the next slide. So if you see this slide, where in the left hand side, it talks about the identity. So in this identity, we have a Microsoft Entra ID and Microsoft Defender for identity. And here in the center, we have continuous risk assessment and automation, where the zero trust policy enforcement, and also we have a Microsoft conditional access. You can also see that we have endpoints, because we can manage that if the access is coming from non-compliant device, we can completely restrict that access, we can completely block that access. So that kind of control also we have when we talk about the uh, conditional access. In the right hand side, if you see, we have applications where conditional access can also be, policies can also be extended with Microsoft Defender for cloud applications, where we can also work on the applications and we can control the access which we are giving to the applications. Data, infrastructure, network, so information protection, Microsoft Cloud App Security. So this entire stack, this particular slide is showing that how conditional access is sitting in the central part and managing access with the help of the various signals which are coming. I think the next slide will give you a more picture and the scenarios. Yeah, if you see this slide, we have conditions, controls. Now, this particular slide will give you a brief that how the signals are coming, where we have employees, partners, users, and roles. We have signals coming from trusted and compliant devices. We also have signals coming from non-managed devices, non-compliant devices. We also have a physical and virtual location. We can work on geolocation. We have a corporate network, browser applications, client application from which the request is generated, initiated, cloud apps and authentication methods. Now we have these policies which we have designed, and these policies will help us in identifying based on these signals. We will be designing the conditions. It is just simply if then. If this condition is matching, we have to take these actions, and this will happen. So if you see this, allow and block access. We can give a limited access. If that device is not compliant, we can give a limited access. We need to have a MFA requirement. We can force the password reset as well, or we can block the legacy authentication. We can manage the cloud SaaS application. We can manage on-prem and web applications, and also we can manage access to all the cloud resources. So that's how the entire scenario work when we talk about the scenario. Now let me take you to the portal. So this is the portal.azure.com, where we will be working on Intra ID. So to access Intra ID, we have two ways to reach out to that. One is from the portal. Another is we have a intra.microsoft.com portal. So if you see this is Microsoft Intra.admin center. I will just zoom it out so that, yeah. This is Microsoft Intra Admin Center. That is also one way for accessing conditional access and managing your identity. So if you go in this, in protection, if you see, we have conditional access. So we can work on the conditional access. We have this separate Intra ID admin center available. And we also have Azure portal where also we can go and we can work on the policies. So how we can open conditional access with this particular portal is we can go to Microsoft Intra ID. You can search it from here. You can go to all services. In all services, you will get the listing of Intra ID. You can open it from here. Also, you can type Microsoft Intra ID and you will be able to open this Intra ID. So Microsoft Intra ID is basically identity and access management tool which help us in managing users, access, groups, external identities, role creation, delegating the permissions, API permissions, app registrations, managing the, I can say that the governance, all those things we can manage with the help of Intra ID. Let me take a sip of tea. Sure. So here we have a list of the users which are already available for this demo. So I will be using couple of users from this where I have pre-built policies which I've created for this demo. And also we will try to create some policies from the start so that you all will gain insight that how these conditional access policies are working and how these are very, very helpful for the users. And how we can reach out to conditional access policy by reaching to the security, and in security you will see conditional access. So this conditional access under the protect will take you to a conditional access plane where you can play, you can create your policies, you can see the insights and reporting of that, you can manage the naming location, you can manage the custom controls, terms of use, we can manage the VPN connectivity, authentication context. We will try to cover as much as possible in the given time period. So this is a place where we will be going to play today with a lot of case studies, and we will try to understand that how we can create policies and what policies can bring to us and what power these policies are giving to us. So let me, and this overview page, if you see, that will give you an overview, the coverage of the policies, where you can see the top accessed applications without conditional access coverage in the last 7 days. And then you can see that for these application, if you want to implement conditional access, which is your requirement based on the organization need, you can do that. You can also have a monitoring for the conditional access results. That also you can see. Okay. So let us start with creating a new policy. So I hope till now you all understand that conditional access is basically a modern security parameter which is extend beyond an organizational network perimeter, and this includes user device identity. So organizations are using identity driven signals as part of their access control decisions. So as we have seen in that diagram, so those signals are basically coming, and based on those signals decisions are taken, and then those decisions are enforced, where we can allow, we can increase the assurance, we can also have terms of use for applications. So all those things we can add and we can work on that. So conditional access policies are, as I told, if then statements. So if a user wants to access a resource, for example, then they must complete an action. So for example, if a user wants to access an application or a service like Microsoft 365, then they must perform multi-factor authentication to gain access. So just a scenario we can think, if user wants to access A, then user must do the password change, or user must accept the terms of use. User must be from this location. So such kind of conditions we can manage, because administrators are faced with two primary goals. The first is empowering users to be productive whenever or wherever they are, and also protecting the organization's asset, because I told you that security is a balancing act between the productivity and securing the assets. So we need to work on that. So conditional access policies apply the right access controls when needed to keep the organization's assets secure. And we have a common signals, as we have seen, user or group memberships, as we have seen in that slide. Mm, So we have seen in that slide that we have user or group memberships where policies can be targeted to specific user or groups, giving administrator fine-grained control, IP location information, or devices. So here it is coming, where we can have specific platforms or marked with a specific state that can be used when you are enforcing a conditional access, or the applications where users are attempting to access specific application that can trigger different conditional access policies, or yeah, or real time risk, as we have discussed. So these are the things which we can decide, and based on that we can take a common decisions, as I mentioned. So conditional access policy is sitting in the center. Common decisions we can take, that is block access, we can take grant access, and granting the access with various conditions, and also we can have certain policies. So let me take you to the portal again, just to show you what I have discussed till now. So if we go to the conditional access portal, let me start with creating a new policy so that one by one we can understand that what all things we can do with the policy, how we can create the policy, and the pointers which I'm discussing from the start of the session, how we can manage those scenarios with the conditional access policies. So I'm creating a new policy. So when you are creating a new policy, it is giving us a plane where we have certain things to configure. So let us discuss one by one all these configurations to understand and work on a given scenario. And just I wanted to highlight one more thing is that zero trust conditional access is helping in implementing zero trust, so that we can verify all the signals explicitly. We can use least privilege access, and also we can assume that every signal which is coming, that is coming for a breach only. So we can work on these scenarios. So I'm taking to the creation of the new policy. So first we have to give a name of this policy. So here control access, if you see points are mentioned over here, control access based on conditional access policy to bring signals together to make decisions and enforce organizational policies. So I'm giving a name, policy 1 demo 17th Jan 2024. Now here comes the assignments. So in this part, we will be discussing and understanding that what all things we can assign, what all things we can work on, because here we are implementing the conditional access policy. So first point in the assignment is coming as a users and group. So in this place, we will be first deciding that which all users we need to work on. Now, before coming to this part, maybe you will be having some questions that how we can get this service, how we can work on this service. So for that, I have a slide. Let me take you to that slide once, and then we will come back, because maybe many of you are new to this feature and you will be looking for how to start it and what all things we need. So the first thing is you need a Azure subscription, because the important part is when you are working on cloud, it's important to have a reporting and monitoring. So for monitoring, you need a place where you can store. So if you have subscription, you can connect your logs, audit, sign in logs to the log analytic workspace, and later you can also analyze that. So just for the sake of understanding, we need a Azure subscription. If you just want to try it, you can go for a trial subscription also from Azure. And then you need a license part. So you need a premium P2 license to get the benefit, all kind of features which are available. So intra id conditional access is part of premium p2, and the roles which is needed, that is global admin or conditional access administrator role, is required if you want to work and manage this. So right now I'm using a demo account, and in that demo account I'm a global admin. Because of that, I'm able to perform all these operations, I'm able to give the demo, I'm able to create the policies, and I'm able to work on the policies. And also we have users and group management that we need to work on. And then if you want to go ahead with terms of use, if you want to go ahead with certain kind of trusted locations, all these things you can work on. So these are the prerequisite if you want to work on the conditional access policies and if you want to gain access to such kind of scenarios. So I hope that this point is clear to you all, that we need to, and if you have a enterprise security in E5 license, I'll just let me take you to that licensing part. That will also give you more clarity. We'll come back to this later. I'll just take you to the licensing part first. Then we will come back here and create policies. So if I show you over here, I have this enterprise mobility and security E5. So if you have that in your demo license, that will also come with information protection P1, P2, Microsoft Intra ID P1, P2. So if you have E5 and enterprise mobility security E5 license, that will also work. You can also start working on creation of the conditional access policies. Okay, so I hope that now you have a understanding what are the prerequisites to start working on conditional access. So let me take you to creation of the first policy. So if I go here and if I'll just give a name, which we were discussing, that demo policy, what is happening? Some issue is there, I guess. Let me restart this once again. Just give me a minute. I will just bring my slide. You can just review the slide and I'll just check that what kind of issues I'm facing in the demo. Okay, it's back now. Yeah. Sorry for the disturbance. Now let's move back to creation of the policy, demo policy. And we are creating it today, 17th Jan 2024. Okay, perfect. Now in this, we have given a name of the policy. Now we will be assigning users to that. So if you see, they have also given some information at every place. So identities in the directory that the policy is applied to. And this includes users, groups, service principals and all. Here you can include all the users in the policy, or you can select the users where you want to apply this policy. Now let me select some users to work on the demo. So let me select Christy claim. Yeah, okay. Let me select this user. Now here we will be selecting a target resources. So control access based on all or specific network access traffic and cloud apps or actions. So we want to see that this policy is applied to which cloud application. So I'm creating this policy for cloud application right now. Again, I can select all cloud application, but this will also give application to all the cloud applications. So it's better to have a policy created for a separate application. So let me select the application. I'm not going in a edit filter right now. I'm creating the policy with application selection. So let me first select Microsoft Office 365 application, and I want to apply this. Now we will be working on the conditions. So these conditions which define when the policy will apply. This policy will be applied to the user on this particular application, and these are the condition based on which the policy will be applied. Now here if you see, we have options which are given to us, that what all policies we need to work on. So if we see over here right now, so these conditions are helping us in identifying that which device platforms are included in or excluded from the policy, what are the organization's known network locations, what client application types are included. So first, if we go to the user risk, we can select that these policies are assigned to the users with a high risk. So that we can define over here. I'm not configuring it right now. You can configure it also like high risk, medium risk, and low risk. So right now my user is not at this risk, so I'm just not using it. Sign in risk also you can define. So you can first you can design your user risk and sign in risk with the identity protection service, and then you can have mapping with the conditional access policy and the device platforms. So you want to include these device platforms or you want to exclude certain device platforms from this particular policy, that you can select from here. And the locations. So for locations, you can select any location, or you can have trusted locations, or again you can select a certain location. So I will show you that how you can create your trusted locations. So here I have created a trusted location, so which I'm using with the help of GPS. I'm just identifying the location, and based on that I'm applying this policy. And then if I want to have any client applications, like from the request is coming, so control user access to target specific client application, not using modern authentication, that also we can control. So let me configure this. Select the client application this policy will apply to. So modern authentication client, browser, mobile application, legacy. So I'm just selecting it. And also we can have filter for devices. So I'm not going with that feature right now. Now it comes to the access control. So if you see this grant, so once I will open this, I have the control, full access control to the access which I'm giving. So I have two options. Let me zoom it for all of you. So here we will be enforcing the decision we have taken based on the conditions we have designed. I can block the access completely, or I can grant the access with certain conditions. So when you're blocking the access, you don't need any condition, directly you can block it. But you have an option to grant the access. Now, in that case, when you are granting the access to the users, what all things you can grant and block. So you can say that I need to have a multi-factor authentication. I need this device to be marked as compliant. I want Microsoft Entra hybrid joint devices. I want to have approved client applications. I want to have app protection policy applied. I want to have password change, terms of use accepted. And block access is, I'm telling you, that powerful control that you should apply with appropriate knowledge, because block means you're completely blocking that user to access. So you should be working on that, that where you are blocking it and where you are managing the access. That is very, very important to understand. So first is require multi-factor authentication. So user must complete additional security requirements like phone call, text. We will also see that. Require authentication strength. So here we have authentication strength policies, which I will see if time permits. I will show you that. This require device to be marked as compliant. So if your device is compliant, then you can grant access. If your device is Microsoft Intra hybrid join, you can allow that. If you want to have approved client application, so we can see the list of the approved client application also over here. So these are the following client applications which supports this settings, where we have required approved client applications. You can see the list of the client applications which we can use, and also require a app protection policy. Again, you can see the list of the policy, app protection policies you can see which is available over here. So MS Learn is very strong place where you can find all the documentations which you need and which you can work on. So that is very important to work on the MS Learn document that will give you the power to understand that what all things we can perform and we can work on this. So you can also have a password change if you want to grant access. You can also say that I will be granting the access, but for that access you need to go and you need to change your password. So that is also an option which we can work on. Or we can also have terms of use. So terms of use is the document which you want your users to review. So we will also see that how we can create terms of use, but I've created 3 terms of use document. Let me use any terms of use document which I want my user to approve for accessing the required resource. So I have this grant access. Here, if you go down, you will see 2 options for multiple controls. The first is require all the selected controls. So this will be a end operation for all the options which are given in the grant. And any of means you will be having a or option where you will work. So let me select this terms of use condition. Now the next part comes, that is session control. So here when we talk about the session control, these are the things which we have. So here administrator can make use of session control for enabling the limited experience with the specific cloud application. So what all things we can do for that? Here we have first application enforced restriction. So if I use this app enforced restriction, so what we are doing is, so organizations those uh, want to have understanding of the device information which they need from Microsoft Intra ID, they can use this application enforced restriction. Maybe based on the device, they want to give access. So device information allow the cloud applications to know if the connection is coming from a compliant device or domain joined device. Based on that, I can give the access. So we can give the limited access when the device is not managed or compliant, and we can give full access when the device is managed or compliant. So that decision we can take if we select this use app enforced restriction. The second option which is given is conditional access application control. So conditional access application control is basically allow to enforce access controls on your organization's app based on the certain condition. And these conditions are defining when user or group of users, cloud applications, locations, and networks, a conditional access policy applies to. So we can determine the conditions and we can route the users to Microsoft Defender for cloud application. It is a CASB solution from Microsoft which help us in protecting the data and the application. So we can protect our data with conditional access app control by applying the access and session controls. So this will help us in preventing data exfiltration, protect on download, preventing upload of unlabeled files. We can monitor the user sessions for compliance. We can block access again. We can block the custom activities. So all those things we can manage if we will be using this use conditional access app control. Then we have sign in frequency. So this particular control defines the time period before a user is asked to sign in again whenever that user is attempting to access a resource. So we as an admin can select a period of time that after these many hours or these many days, or we can require a re-authentication every time the user is asking for a application access. Then we have a customized continuous access evaluation. So what is the meaning of that is it is auto enabled as part of the organizational conditional access policy. So this feature is basically for the organization who wish to basically configure that within the session control, they want to actually scope for all the users, specific users. They can make the decisions that what all users and access we will be using it, and it can be like disabled also, and it can be managed with the help of us as well. So this will be disabled only when all the cloud applications are selected and there is no condition is also selected, then only we can disable it. And we can again do the disable under this. So we can go to this, we can disable it also. You can see that the message is coming that it only works when we have all cloud applications. Otherwise, this will not work. But the strict enforced location policies are in the preview right now. Once it will be enabled for us, we will be able to use it. The next is we have disabled resilience default policy. So during any outage, Microsoft Entra ID extend the access to existing sessions. You can enforce this also if you want to keep this feature while enforcing conditional access policies. So if this disable, then access is denied once the existing session expires. So that also we can work on. And then we need a token protection for sign-in sessions. So that is also help us to reduce the attacks which used with the token theft. So this particular thing is ensuring that the token is usable only from an intended device, not from any other device. And then we have a global secure access security profile. So the meaning of that is that it unifies the identity control within the network security, and this particular control allows you to bring identity and context awareness to the security profile. So these are groups of various policies created and managed in the global secure access. So these are the session controls which are given over here. So I'm not going to select any session right now. Now here, if you see, when we have selected the certain controls, we have three options when we want to enable a policy. So report only mode means you want to create a policy, but it will be in a report only mode. It will not be implemented, or it will not be enforcing any decision on the users. If you make it on, it means the options is enabling this policy to restrict the users based on the policy access permissions or the access controls which you have given, and you have created it. If you are making it off, you have created it for a later use. So this is just a brief about this policy, how you can work on this policy and what all things we have. So I'm just making it off right now, and I'm going to create this policy. And then we will try to see that what impact this policy is giving on the environment. Whenever you have a successful creation of the policy, you will be getting a notification here. Okay, so let me bring you the new page where we will try to log in. We will try to see. So this is a new page which I have opened. So I'm trying to open Office 365 application. I will try to log in with the user. Let's just sign out from this user. We have a user which we have taken, Christy. So we will just try to see if Christy is successfully able to access the 365 application, and then we will try to control the access of Christy with the policies we will be creating. So this user is able to access Office 365 application. Let me take you back to the conditional access policy. Okay. Let me go to the policies once again. And let me enable this policy which we have created. So we have created this policy. I'm enabling this policy now. So this policy will be granting access to user Christie for accessing Office 365. But first user has to go through the terms of use. And how we can create terms of use? We can go to the left hand panel in the manage terms of use. We can create a new term, or we can go to identity governance, and also we can create terms of use. Here also we have terms of use. So there are two ways you can create terms of use for your applications. You can also keep track, you can modify those terms of use. Let me take you back to the Entra ID conditional access policies. So we have enabled this policy. It will take a few minutes to implement or enable this. So let me create one more policy where we will block the access based on the location. Then we will try to test both the policies. So I'm creating a new policy, demo policy 2. I will be selecting users. I can also exclude the users, as I told you that flexibility is also given. So if certain users are requiring a lot of travels, or you want those users like admin or emergency accounts to be excluded from certain policies, you can exclude them from here. You can have users and groups coming over here. Let me select, okay, let me select Dahlia Dennis for this particular access. And let me select again Office 365 application. Let me work on that application only. It's taking some time. Okay, it's coming now. Office 365, I've selected. Now we have certain conditions. So let me select a location based on which I want to block the access. So let me configure the location. Okay, I've selected. Now I will be granting the access. So I'm completely blocking the access based on the location. Okay. And let me just make it report only and just create it just to see that my user is able to access Office 365 application right now successfully. Then I will enable this policy. So we have created two policies right now. One policy is giving access with certain restrictions. One policy which is completely blocking the access. Let me open that again. Let me sign off from this account and let me sign in with the Dahlia Dennis account. You can post your questions, and at the end, again, I will share my LinkedIn profile where also you can reach out to me for any help you need from me. So let me log in with Dahlia account, Delia. Let me give a password over here. Okay. So this user is also able to access the Office 365 applications without any interruption. Now let us interrupt this. It is also requiring more information. Maybe I have enabled it. Okay, it is a report only, so it is not going to take any action. Okay. Okay, so it will be asking me for certain thing because we have enabled that policy in report only mode. Okay. It will not be enforcing the results, but I have to let me set up authentication authenticator. Let me scan this. So till that it is working, we will just enable this policy. It is asking me for the location. So if you see over here, this point, after giving the location, it is allowing me to enter into the application. I'll be able to access this because I have enabled the policy in a report only mode, where I can see the entire report, who all users coming under this policy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable that policy once again, and then I will try to see that if this policy is going to block the access for daily or not. Right now it is in the report only mode. I'm going to enable this and I'm going to save it. And let us try for the other user also, Christy. I will take only 2-3 minutes more to show you the policies we have created, what kind of effect these policies are giving. So we have created this policy where we will be giving access to the user. Christy, I think we have selected, yeah. And we have given grant access with terms of use to. If this user is going to accept terms of use to, then this user will be able to access the application. Okay, let me log out from this place and let us log in with Christy to see that what effect now Christy is facing. Let me copy the address. Okay, so this is the address. It is signing in and we will give a password over here. Now it is requiring more information. It is taking me to the configuration of this because in terms of use, I have enabled this. So there is no chance of breach because at every step you have multiple factors of authentication, and then once you are confirmed that this user is legit, then only you will be giving access to the user. It's again asking, okay. Now it is redirecting me to the external provider where I will be reaching to the terms of use page. And here I have to accept the terms of use. Before accessing your application, you can ask your user to accept terms of use. Now, before opening it also, if I want to accept this, it is showing me that you have to view the terms of use before you accept it. So I can have control that how I want my user to behave. So this terms of use, I have this terms of use. So I'm just scrolling it a bit, but you should be reading it. Any terms of use if you're accepting, and then I'm going to accept this. So once I'm accepting this terms of use, then based on the policy, the decision will be taken that I will be granted access or not. So yes, the access will be granted to me with the help of I have accepted the terms of use. Now let us see that if we have enabled that policy too, and then we will try to see that based on the location, if this policy is blocked for me or not. Okay, now let us log in again with Delia Dennis. So for your organizations, you can also practice, and you can also see that how you can make your environment safe from any kind of unauthorized access from the outside world and even from the inside world as well. So this is, we are just signing it with Delia D. Just remember that we have enabled this policy. If you are signing in from certain locations, then you will not be allowed to access the application. I think we haven't enabled that policy. There is some issue in that condition. What is the condition? Let me see. Okay, countries and GPS. Let me see that what is the trusted location. So we can work on those name locations, and based on that, we can work and we can manage the. If this access is coming from India, GPS coordinates, okay. So if this coming from trusted location, then we have to block the access. So such that we can create the policies, and also we have an option. I will just show you that. We have an option and go and deep dive into the logs which are coming, who is accessing. We can also work on the sign in logs. We can also work on the audit logs. We can review these sign in logs and audit logs to understand the scenario in a better way. You can see that all the access which are coming, if it is interrupted, if it is failed, everything is coming in the logs. And these logs will also help you in implementing the policies again. So that's it from my side. And this is again the QR code of my LinkedIn profile. So if you have any questions, because we are just exceeding the time, so right now I'm not taking the questions, but I just request all of you to post your questions on the LinkedIn so that I'll be happy to help you in your learning journey. This is the QR code for my LinkedIn profile. Rashmita, over to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abhilasha. Thank you. And yes, to find out more about Microsoft for Startup, just scan the QR code. You'll see how Microsoft for Startup Founder Hub helps startups speed up innovation by giving access to top AI services, expert advice, and the essential technology to build a future proof startup. With this, again, I would like to thank you, Dr. Abhilasha, for hosting an amazing session. And thank you all for joining us today. Also, please visit Microsoft Reactor website for more upcoming session. Feel free to use the Learn module link shared in the chat section. This will give you access to additional resources to take your learning further. Thank you all once again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmita. Thank you all.